The upside of the letdown that was renewing my HBO subscription and telling myself weekly that surely next week's episode would be the one that saves the final season of Game of Thrones was discovering the Chernobyl miniseries. I had heard nothing about it until it was airing, and I started watching for the interest of the science of a nuclear meltdown and what radiation can do to the human body and the environment. But I stayed for the politics. What I loved about the show was watching Soviet leadership insist that state power and not observable reality is what defines truth. The major theme of the show is the effort to cover up information, because ultimately, the truth is what the state says it is.
The official position of the state is that a global nuclear catastrophe is not possible in the Soviet Union.
And this week I couldn't help but laugh when that same type of line was delivered almost verbatim by a high school teacher in Scotland who was disciplining a rogue student who had the audacity to proclaim in front of the entire class that there are only two genders. Now I know, Chernobyl the show is fiction, or at least historical fiction. This dramatization isn't directly extracted from history, and I don't want to be one of these buffoons using fiction to lecture about moral hazards in reality. But Chernobyl is a story of just how crazy and dangerous things can become when the declaration of the truth itself is a centrally controlled decision, be it by the state or any other authority. What happened at this school in Scotland is a consequence of a similar structure. Now, thankfully, much more silly and entertaining consequences, not deadly serious consequences like people's skin melting off their faces and all that, yet. I just want to be clear for the hit piece writers. Yes, I do think gender fluidity leads directly to nuclear holocaust. Dateline Aberdeenshire, Scotland. For this story, a 17-year-old student was kicked out of class for what, as of yet, remains a bit unclear. Contextually, we can surmise that this kid said something about there only being two genders. This prompted the teacher to kick him out. It's not clear if this kid was being disruptive or causing a problem in the classroom, but he does seem pretty calm and reasonable in the meeting that occurred after, during which he smartly pulled the Lindsay Shepherd move and started recording on his phone.
You're entitled to your opinion.
If I am, then why would you kick me out of class? It's not very inclusive of opinion.
Can I finish my sentence, please? It's not very inclusive. No, I'm sorry, what you were saying was not very inclusive, and this is an inclusive school.
Yeah, how was what I was saying?
Because I was saying that what's wrong with the website is that there are more than one gender in this country.
That's your opinion.
That is my opinion, and that is an opinion which is acceptable in the school. I'm afraid yours, which you're saying that there's no such thing as anyone other than male or female, is not inclusive.
Scientifically, there are just two genders.
You are choosing to make an issue of this, because I said, are you really going to do it? That was your opportunity to keep quiet. You chose to do so.
I think it's silly to have anything other than two genders. So
okay.
Anything else is a personal
Could you please keep that opinion to your own house, not in the school?
So you get to put your opinion out in class, and my
opinion
has to stay inside my house.
I am not putting my opinion. I am not putting my opinion out. I am stating what is national school authority policy. Okay?
As some of the coverage notes, as heavy-handed as this is, it's still kind of disappointing. I'd like my commissar to be a more imposing, intimidating figure, like a Stalin-esque guy with a big cool hat and a bushy mustache. Instead, he looks more like an aging version of Chris Farley's motivational speaker character.
Now you kids are probably asking yourselves, hey Matt, how can we get back on the right track?
The conversation continues with the science at the heart of the matter.
It's not scientific whatsoever.
Not every policy is scientific, Murray. I know what you think, and I know what the authority thinks. I know what the authority's point of view is. Very clear that we make no discrimination on the grounds of various...
I wasn't making discrimination. I'm simply saying there are two genders, male and female.
Yeah.
Anything else is a personal identification.
I'm sorry, but you chose to make an issue of making a point which is contrary to policy.
So to be clear, the truth behind the policy is irrelevant. It's only the authority behind the policy that gives it legitimacy or not. Odder still, it's not even clear exactly what policy he's referring to. He references something called the National School Authority Policy, but that's not clearly a thing, or at least neither Redditors in this thread discussing this video nor I have been able to find exactly what he's talking about. But I'm sure the theme of what he's saying is true, genuinely. I'm sure he's sat through enough diversity seminars to have forcibly tasted the rainbow 100 times over by now. I don't doubt that there's significant state pressure on him. I just find it concerning that when faced with the choice of serving the state or serving the student who's right in front of him in the moment, he chooses the state without hesitation. I assume most people become teachers because they want to help kids, not propagate the party line. But here we are. And you can see this uncompromising allegiance to authority as the repeating theme of this dialogue. It arises in every context.
Take this somewhere else, Murray. You can make an official complaint.
I'm not going to make an official complaint.
Why not? You're making bad choices.
I'm making bad choices, okay. Thanks for wasting my time.
Murray, I am not allowed to tell you how much of my time you have wasted.
Okay.
What can you say? Ask the authority. What can I say? Ask the authority. Don't like that arrangement? Appeal to the authority, and while you're there, be sure to plant a firm kiss on their left cheek for me so they know how much I love them. I don't want to read too far into a 3-minute clip. Maybe this is just an off day for teacher guy. But my God, the submission to authority is so ingrained in this guy's worldview, you can watch him suppressing his own mind in real time so as not to commit the high offense of thought crime. The solution to every problem before him is not to address it himself, but instead to ask mommy and daddy at the state what he has permission to do. And he's charged with passing that worldview off to the next generation. That doesn't create a generation of self-sufficiency and problem solvers. That creates a generation of state dependence conditioned to look to the authority whenever so much as a sniffle of a problem arises. Now, as far as what that almighty authority itself is saying about the matter, local government claims that the video was taken out of the context of the bigger incident that happened previously within the classroom. A spokesman says, quote, "As part of our public sector equality duty, we aim to eliminate discrimination, harassment, and victimization, advance equality of opportunity between those who have protected characteristics and those who don't, and foster good relations between those who have protected characteristics and those who don't." It is important to understand the context of any video clip taken without a person's consent. In our schools, fostering good relations among different groups can be a real challenge, but our aim is to support a fairer, inclusive environment for all. Okay, but the trouble is that statement doesn't provide any additional context. Are they accusing this student of harassing or victimizing other kids? If so, why not state that? If so, why was this teacher focused exclusively on the alleged wrong thing? And as far as the teacher not knowing the conversation was being recorded, that's the whole premise, that he's bluntly honest about his perspective under that condition. And as a public official on the public dime at a public school, I don't think he has a legitimate expectation of privacy in his professional duties. Simply saying out of context without explaining the context does not excuse what we just witnessed, but maybe no explanation is necessary. After all, it is the official position of the state that the clip was taken out of context, and therefore the clip is not to be considered legitimate or even truthful. And who are we to question? Centralized authority has an impeccable record of blazing trails to prosperity, be it socially, economically, or in this case, intellectually. If that were really the case, it makes you wonder why the phrase official position of the state is most often followed by some form of attempted disaster mitigation. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel always. Appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.